Hey everyone, today I'm hanging out next to my record collection because I want to talk to you about album art. At the end of last year I did a video about some of my favourite pieces of album artwork in my record collection, and I want to make this more of a regular series to discuss album art as I buy new records. So they may not be my absolute favourite designs from now on, but I still think it's fun to discuss the design of album art and critique it anyway. In today's video I've got 4 albums to discuss. 2 are albums that I've loved since I was a teenager, and 2 are newer listens. Let's start with the older ones. First up, one of my all-time favourite albums, Green Day's American Idiot. This is such a classic for my generation, I feel. And not only the music, but the design as well has become very recognisable. It features this cutout style illustration. It definitely reminds me, and I'm pretty sure the designer of this would have taken inspiration from Saul Bass and his, the Vertigo movie posters. I can definitely see some of that inspiration in here, and I think it works really well. The heart hand grenade motif is a really clever one. That's from one of the lyrics in one of the songs, if you haven't heard it before. In vinyl form, it's pretty cool when you open up on the inside, and you've got all these uneven blocks, I suppose, surrounding the lyrics. I'm not a fan of the typewriter font that's been used for the lyrics here. I think it's a bit cheesy, and I don't know, even just a simple sans serif probably would have looked alright here. I do like, however, how they've alternated the left and right alignment of the text. It's still readable because with lyrics the lines are very short, and I don't know, it adds a bit of interest and goes with this sort of grungy yet clean style is how I'm going to describe it, because grungy graphics are generally have lots of texture to them, but this somehow feels grungy despite being, clean, sharp edges. Very simple color palette for this, just the red, black and white, but I think it works well, and I have come to identify these colors together as being very Green Day. What I also like about this, and perhaps that's why the inspiration came from the Saul Bass movie posters, is that this album is presented as a rock opera, and so this cover kind of does feel a bit like it could be a movie poster, and that makes sense because the whole album tells a story. Moving on to one last blast from the past before we move on to newer things. This is Blink-182's self-titled album, and just like with the American Idiot Green Day album, this has a really strong motif that was then used, on multiple other merchandise and things like that throughout this album cycle. I remember loving this album art when I first saw it, and this is probably one of those albums that got me into design, seeing this. I loved the stencil look combined with the paint textures, and I really liked the colours that they chose. The turquoise and the pink looked really cool together and was a bit unexpected, because a lot of punk rock bands were doing, the tougher colours like the black, red and white that we saw on Green Day, so I really liked that they did this. The back of this album, I will admit, is kind of boring. It's just a photo and some typewriter text again, but moving on to the inside, much more colour and some really cool effects on the photos. I remember owning the CD of this, and I know that each of these squares that you see in this record were a page in the CD booklet, so it's a little bit different here, and I think it worked better as a CD, which makes sense because that's what it was designed for. But yeah, the photos all have these really cool color effects to them that will go with the blue and pink from the cover. Normally it's a bit of a design faux pas to mix a lot of different fonts together, but this album, on the inside, the liner notes do this really well. There's lots of different fonts used, and there's some handwritten stuff as well, but it all does seem to work together because of that grungy vibe that it's got to it. I remember really liking how this was put together too, because there was little notes from the band throughout next to the lyrics, and it just felt really personal and quite cool. So I like that they included some of those handwritten elements in it. I think the reason the typewriter text doesn't bother me as much on this album is because it sort of matches in with this type treatment done on the cover here. This sort of looks like it's been typewritten over several times. So I don't know, it makes sense, it works together. It would have been nice to see that type treatment used elsewhere though, as well, in places, maybe for the song titles or something, I don't know. Okay, a newer record now. This is Boston Manor's Be Nothing. It's this image of someone falling, and it's really grainy in a really cool way. So it's got this noise effect applied over it that means that the album isn't ever one solid color. There's all this texture to it. I love the type treatment. This is the exact kind of glitch graphics that I really like, and it almost looks like you want to put on 3D glasses and see it because of the blue and red. So yeah, the typography on the front's really nice and simple, good balance with the image there, it really lets it stand out. And then on the back we have the same type treatment and lots of use of negative space, which I like. Everything's sort of anchored to this corner here, including all the credits and the logo, and that means there's lots of room to have breathing room, which is always good. The last one I want to talk about today is one of my newest album purchases. This is Trash Boat. They're a small UK band, they're very good, so you should check them out. I really love this woodcut illustration. I think it's very cool in itself, and I love that they've used it on the cover as a photograph of it rather than, you know, scanning it in or whatever. So you see the shadow here of it sitting on the wall, and I don't know, I think it gives it a lot more depth, which I really like. Nice typography again, nice and balanced with the name at the top and the album name down the bottom there smaller, good hierarchy. I'm not such a fan of the back of the album. It's like the woodcut tools, I suppose, and all of the shavings from it. I don't know if it's necessary to go that literal, and I think the design on the front speaks for itself in a way, and you see all the texture within it. I don't know, that might be a bit harsh, but I just think that this back doesn't live up to how cool the front is, if that makes sense. Even just having this plain would have been awesome, I think. Just plain with the text in the middle there and this white paper feeling background. So that's a look at 4 more albums in my collection. What I quite like about these videos is not only do I get to talk about design and critique the album covers, and hopefully you can critique them yourselves and share your own thoughts in the comments, but also I'm getting to share some of my record collection with you. I love collecting records, even though they take up a lot of space, but it does mean that you get to see the album artwork nice and big, so that's a plus from it from a design perspective. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new to my channel, because I make videos every single week about design and I'd love to have you stick around for them. So hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!